I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Movies, where I review the styles of movies that I love, the alternative, B-rated, cult style flicks. And this week, it's time for the fourth installment to a legendary series. This one was made in 1988, and it was directed by Rennie Harlan, and written by Brian Hedgeland and Ken and Jim Wheats, who went under the pseudonym Scott Pierce, as well as William Coatsweegle. Of course, produced by Robert Shea and Rachel Talalay. Made by New Line Cinema, Heron Communications, and Smart Egg Pictures, and distributed by New Line Cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. The movie opens with the same creepy girl from the first movie, as well as the character Kristen, who is now played by Tuesday Knight, as Patricia Arquette declined coming back to reprise her role as Kristen. Kristen is asking if Freddy is in Nancy's old house.
He's not home.
Not creepy enough? Obviously, this is a dream. As I mentioned in my review of Dream Warriors, that was the only movie in the series to not open with a dream sequence. And of course, because Kristen knows that this has to be Freddy, she pulls Kincaid and Joey, the survivors from Dream Warriors, into the dream with her.
Kristen, not again!
I'm sorry, Kincaid.
Apparently, this isn't the first time since Dream Warriors that she's done this. Where's Joey?
Dragging us in here?
Yeah, cut it out!
There they are, all the survivors from Dream Warriors. And Joey has already doubled his dialogue that he had from the last movie. The boys do not believe that Freddy is back, but Kristen is certain of it. But then Kincaid's dog that Kristen had pulled in the dream for some reason gets upset and bites her. And this wakes everybody up. Is Freddy the dog? No, the dog is Jason. The next morning, we meet some more of Kristen's friends, like Debbie and Sheila.
This health hazard, you know, it's no wonder that you have asthma.
Sheila has asthma. So I'm guessing her death is going to have something to do with trains.
Ew. Ew. Ew.
Ew.
And Debbie is terrified of bugs. Wonder how she's going to die. Sword. Kristen goes to find Joey and Kincaid, and they tell her that she just needs to let this go. I mean, Freddy is dead. Which I love the logic in that. In every movie, no, Freddy's dead. He can't possibly come back. He was dead before you ever met him. After they leave, Kristen's boyfriend, Rick, comes over to give her a little bit of comfort.
Hey, lighten up. No one died.
But they're gonna. Then we cut over to her boyfriend, Rick, practicing his martial arts. Which clearly means that his death is going to involve peanut allergies. Back at Kincaid's.
Jason. Come on, boy. Come on.
Yeah, that wasn't a joke earlier. The dog's name is Jason. Subtle. Kincaid falls asleep, and he awakens in a trunk. When he gets out of the trunk, he realizes he's in the same junkyard that they buried Freddy's remains in the previous movie. Why? Because they just had to get this set in there one more time. But the good thing is, Kincaid is not alone. Jason's there. In 1988, the character of Jason was not owned by New Line Cinema yet. So this was the best they could do to give us a Freddy vs. Jason. 15 years later, when they owned the character of Jason, we'd finally get Freddy vs. Jason. Which some would say was better than this Freddy vs. Jason, and some would say is not. We'll get there someday. Somehow a dog with herpes peeing on Freddy was just what he needed to be revived. They don't explain how this worked. Then again, it was a 1980s horror film. We didn't ask them to. We know! We knew that before you did! Catch up! So now that Freddy is back, he is face to face with one of the Elm Street kids. One of the kids that defeated him in the last movie. So this showdown is gonna be epic!
Tell him Freddy sent you.
That's it?
One down. Two to go.
Okay, I get it. You're busy. No sense in wasting time. So now over to Joey.
How's this for a wet dream?
In the previous movies, Freddy was a little comedic here and there. This is when he became the full-on comedic, sarcastic, quick-witted Freddy that most of us remember him as. Joey's mom comes in.
Joey, I'm getting tired of picking up your clothes.
Well, good news!
Joey!
Easily explainable. I can't tell you how many incidents we had in the 80s of kids getting trapped inside of their waterbeds. The next day, Kristen is talking to her friend Alice about their nightmares.
Did you ever hear of the Dream Master?
Yeah. I'm reviewing it.
Duh!
Once she gets to class, Kristen is made aware of Joey and Kincaid's deaths, and she starts freaking out to the point that she bumps her head and knocks herself out. When she comes to...
Feeling better now?
Hell no, I'm not! Sorry, but Robert Englund as a woman is way scarier than him as Freddy Krueger.
I want to draw some blood.
Thank you. It's a lot better. Kristen tells her boyfriend Rick, who is also the brother of her best friend Alice, all about Freddy. Rick tells his friend Dan about him.
He was a child killer freed on a technicality.
Since we've all seen the previous movies and know his backstory, let's just skip ahead. At home, during dinner, Kristen is feeling funny.
God, what did you do?
Kristen's horrible mother has noticed that she has not been sleeping.
Jesus, sleeping pill?
So she roofied her own daughter. And this was the 80s, when parents could get away with stuff like that.
You just murdered me.
Kids are so dramatic. Kristen goes upstairs and succumbs to the sleeping pills. But for a moment, everything is fine. Kristen's dreaming that she's on a beautiful beach, just taking in the sun. Everything's wonderful. Paradise! Till Freddy shows up. I tell you, in the 80s, quicksand was everywhere.
No! No!
Yeah, yelling no in the last movie didn't work for Joey. What made you think it was going to work for you? She sinks into Nancy's house and then goes down to the boiler room that was never at Nancy's house. It's a freaking dream. It doesn't need to make sense. Since Kristen is the last of the Elm Street kids, Freddy has an idea for her.
Why don't you, call on one of your little friends?
Freddy wants her to call for help. Why? So she calls her friend Alice.
Alice, wake up and get out!
That's why, because he wants more victims. So now that he has a new victim set up, he finally takes out Kristen. But she has one more gift for her friend Alice before she dies.
You'll need my power!
This wakes up Alice, and her and Rick go to see Kristen. That's hot. At home, Alice is telling Rick about the dream she'd had.
And now it's like part of her is with me.
Hopefully it's the part that was played by Patricia Arquette. Tuesday night didn't do a very good job. In class the next day, Alice is tired from the night before and she falls asleep in class. Again, like the first movie, I think if your best friend had just died, especially in such a horrible way, take the next day off. But when she falls asleep, she pulls her friend Sheila into her dream. So Freddy makes a move.
Wanna suck the face?
Not the worst pickup line I've ever heard. Guess I was wrong about the trains. Alice is of course upset at herself for bringing Sheila into the dream so that Freddy could kill her. But what you really should be upset with is Kristen. If she hadn't have given you her power, then that would have been the end of it. She would have been the last victim. Well, maybe. Probably not. No.
Where were we?
We are at the cameo of producer Robert Shea. He's the one playing the teacher.
Now, those of you who don't find it fascinating, you better listen up, because it's going to be on the final.
Can't tell if he's a bad actor or he's doing a really good job at playing a very boring teacher. Alice is very tired from not sleeping, as well as being very bored in class. Rick, her brother, is also very tired from staying up with Alice because she's afraid to sleep. And he falls asleep on the toilet. I've done that. Rick's wild fantasy is to have a bunch of cheerleaders watch him poop. Suddenly, Rick is in a dojo. I guess. Being punched by an invisible Freddy. But Rick, being the martial artist that he is able to fight off Invisible Freddy. Even kicks off his glove. And this is what happens when instead of going to an actual dojo to learn martial arts, you just sit down and watch the American Ninja movies. At Rick's funeral, Debbie tells Alice she's not alone.
I mean, look, I don't spend hours working out to let some night stalker beat me.
Ah, she's a fitness freak, and she's afraid of bugs. So she's gonna die from a sword connected to a fishing pole. Now that her brother Rick is sadly dead, and he was a martial artist, she is now able to do martial arts with her own stunt double.
What's happening to me?
Well, Alice, now that you're a teenager, you're going to be going through some changes. Alice dreams that she sneaks out and goes to the movies. And while she's at the movies, suddenly the diner that she works at comes on. The diner called the Crave Inn. Craven. Wes Craven. Not gonna lie to you, I'm a little embarrassed with myself that it did take me a long time to get that. But as she's dreaming, she gets pulled into the Crave Inn. Let me rephrase that, because that makes it sound like I'm turning Wes Craven into Harvey Weinstein. As she's dreaming, she gets pulled into the diner, the Crave Inn. In the diner, Alice, as an old lady, brings herself a pizza. Which, come on, Freddy. Get a little bit realistic with these dreams. Diners don't serve pizza. They serve diner food like burgers and meatloaf and gravy fries. And what were we talking about?
My favorite.
Clearly, Freddy likes Pizza Hut.
Bring me more.
Well, I guess it's Debbie's turn.
Come on, we have to hurry.
What's going on?
I'm driving.
Alice awakens and runs to meet Dan so they can go to Debbie's and save her. But once she gets to Debbie's...
Come on, we have to hurry.
What's going on?
I'm driving.
I didn't play the same scene. She's asleep and they are stuck in a time loop. And apparently the time loop sequence was Robert Englund's favorite part of this movie. So now to Debbie.
I don't believe in you.
Yeah, and if I stand in the middle of the road and say I don't believe in trucks, one's not going to hit me. Since she's so afraid of bugs, Freddy does the nice thing by making her face her fears, turning her into a cockroach. And while this is going on...
Come on, we have to hurry. I'm driving.
Alice and Dan are still stuck in the time loop.
You know, I get the weirdest feeling we've done this before.
It's a glitch in the Matrix. As Debbie looks around, she realizes that not only is she turning into a roach, but she's in a roach motel. One of the sickest ways to kill a roach ever, because you could not only trap the roach and kill it, you could watch the whole thing. About the time she's almost a complete roach...
You can check in, but you can't check out.
So that's Freddy's devious plan. He's gonna make her live out the rest of her life as a cockroach. Which thankfully for her wasn't very long. Even though this movie isn't by far my favorite in the series, that death is in the top 5 deaths of the series. Now Alice and Dan finally get out of the time loop. Okay, seriously, how does this low-budget 80s movie have better effects than all the CGI fests that are out nowadays? The accident causes Dan to need to be rushed to the hospital, where they have to do emergency surgery, which of course means they're going to put him to sleep. And don't worry, I'm sure Freddy can blame that death on post-surgery infection. So Alice goes home and takes some sleeping pills while changing into an 80s badass! But now to Dan.
Krueger! Well, it ain't Dr. Seuss.
He does not like Freddy. Doesn't like him with a teddy, doesn't like him at the Getty. Doesn't like him in a box, doesn't like him with a fox. Does not like Freddy here or there, he does not like Freddy anywhere. So Alice comes to save him. The two of them are gonna fight Freddy together. But just then, Dan comes out of surgery.
It was rough, but we pulled you out. You're gonna be okay.
But it's okay. Alice has a leather jacket.
Welcome to Wonderland, Alice.
Yeah, I was gonna make an Alice in Wonderland joke earlier too, but I don't know, I just kind of felt that would have been a little too obvious. She fights Freddy with the abilities of his victims, but it doesn't really faze him. In fact, he pretty much laughs it off. Until she uses Sheila's homemade bug zapper to get her own ability, becoming a Ghostbuster. But this is Freddy we're talking about. He recovers.
I eternal.
But even though he's eternal, she's the Dream Master.
Evil will see itself.
And it shall die!
Okay, dude, I understand you're not the best thing to look at, but it's what's on the inside that counts. Speaking of inside, the souls that were trapped inside of Freddy all start coming out and fighting him off themselves. And again, I would put these effects up against any of these wall-to-wall CGI movies that they make nowadays. Eventually, the souls all break free, and Freddy is defeated. And I'm sure that this is going to be the last time he's defeated.
Rest in hell.
People don't do that there. Now her and Dan are a cute couple enjoying a day.
Make a wish.
I wish for you to get acting lessons. He'll be back. Duh! So there you have it. That's A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This movie was actually the highest grossing movie of the series until Freddy vs. Jason. It had a $13 million budget and did $49.4 million in the box office. And a lot of people hail this as being their favorite in the series. The most common one hailed as the favorite is number 3, but this one is like a close second. As a matter of fact, the actor who plays Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, this is his favorite of the series. However, I personally gotta disagree. It's not my least favorite of the series, that's number 2, but it ain't even close to being my favorite. Don't get me wrong, it had great effects. The story wasn't terrible, but in my opinion, the acting was by far worse than any of the series. And that's saying a lot, because none of these movies were really known for the great acting. However, slightly more than half the critics did say that they did like this movie, whereas the rest said it was just average. Websites like Rotten Tomatoes show that slightly less than the audience reviews don't like it. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 52% score of critics, 43% of audience. The thing that bothered a lot of people the most, including me, was the person that they replaced to play Kristen. Obviously, Patricia Arquette just didn't want to do it. If you go to 100 different websites looking up why she didn't come back, you're going to get 100 different answers, it seems. There's no one conclusive one. Even by her, she's given different answers. So the only thing conclusive is she just didn't want to. Okay, so they could have either written the character out, or they could have, in my opinion, gotten a better replacement, as Tuesday Night really just didn't hold up to Patricia Arquette. However, like I said, this was the highest grossing of the series until Freddy vs. Jason, and it was the success of this movie that led to the producers greenlighting the series Freddy's Nightmares, which lasted 2 seasons. Not only was this the highest grossing of the series, this was the most successful horror movie in 1988, which is saying a lot considering 1988 was the same year that Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers came out, as well as Friday the 13th Part 7. And I will say I can't take away from the direction of this movie, as Renny Harlin really did pour his heart out into this movie, even going as far as to make all the dream sequences based on nightmares that he himself had had at some point in his life. That's dedication. And apparently with him being a struggling director at the time, he really pushed and lobbied to do this movie. And I will say, good for him, because it did lead to more success, as he has directed some of my favorite movies, like Blast from the Past, Cliffhanger, Mindhunters, Die Hard 2. So good for him. However, like I said, my personal feeling is it isn't the best, but I definitely feel it is an essential watch if you're going to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street series. So if for some reason you haven't seen A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, I would still recommend that you check out A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. It's definitely worth watching. So there you have it. That's my movie review this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notifications when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Love you guys.